Well, Yumi, thanks so much for joining us today. We're really looking forward to playing Dvořák with you in next week. My gosh.
Me too. I am so excited. It is truly one of my absolute favorite violin concertos in the repertoire, and really just deserves to be heard live and not always very often programmed.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll talk about the concerto later for sure, because um, like I said before we started recording, yeah, a lot of our audience is probably familiar with Dvořák. We're doing the Ninth Symphony, which is not just one of his most famous pieces, but one of the most famous pieces. But yeah, a lot of folks don't know the violin concerto. But we wanted to meet you a little bit first.
Mhm.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you started playing the violin? I know those are two different things, but let's hear your story.
The long version begins with my mother wanting her little girl to play the violin, but circumstances in Korea were not really possible at the time. So we find ourselves emigrated to Philadelphia when I was age 9, and I spent some time at the English for Second Language school. And then, as luck would have it, there's a music magnet school that is my neighborhood school in South Philadelphia. And I got in, my brother also got in. And then school is about to start in the fall. And it actually hadn't even quite started, but somehow my mother found out that there was a Korean violin teacher there. And they conspired. And next thing I knew, I had a violin like land on my lap. Like I didn't ask for it. I didn't we never talked about it. She never asked me. My mother never asked me. I just remember that first day getting this violin and spending I don't know how long. Could have been 2 hours just tinkering with it. So thus began my violin adventure in fifth grade in a public school in South Philadelphia. I just performed the Dvorak American String Quartet in
Well,
Salida on Friday with my colleagues from the Colorado Symphony. And I told them the story that the very first time I ever played this piece, I was 13 years old playing with college kids. And our coach was a member of the none other than the Colorado Quartet, the professional group that did very well in the, I guess, like 80s and maybe into the 90s. And I believe the coach was a cellist, Julie, last name escapes me, but that was my first introduction to anything Colorado. And I
well, wow.
made that connection only a few days ago.
So let's skip forward. How did you come to Colorado?
Oh, how did I come to Colorado? Well, first of all, having grown up in Seoul, Korea, and South Philadelphia, Philadelphia, I'm a city girl. I'm a total city girl. I say I grew up in concrete. Um, and when I first came to Colorado, it was for my friend's wedding in the early 90s. And I just thought, wow, this is gorgeous. And then I came back for a vacation a few years later. Um, I was playing in the Cincinnati Symphony from 1995, and Marin Alsop was a frequent guest
Mm.
conductor. We had a very good relationship. And I was sitting principal second at the time. Well, principal second is right in the line of vision of the conductor, unlike the concertmaster who's off to the side and like peripheral
Mm.
vision. And actually, it's not a great seat, the concertmaster seat. Often you're looking at the behind of the
Yeah.
conductor, and you have this strange angle too, the sort of like the side view, right? But when
Mhm.
you're sitting right on the nose of the conductor as principal second. You have a connection there that's really visceral. Um, so she had come several times, and I really enjoyed her. And we struck up a conversation, and I asked her how things were in Colorado. And next thing I know, she said, "Would you like to come and be a guest concertmaster for a week?"
Oh, wow.
I said, "Wonderful." So I showed up for a week, and I'll never forget this because Cleo Parker dancers
Oh
were
my God.
doing the complete Firebird.
Wow.
Okay. And it's the last concert of the season. So here we are doing this complete Stravinsky Firebird. And I think American in Paris was the first half. In any case, I actually was quite under the weather, but I came anyhow. This is pre-COVID. You still travel when
Yeah.
you're sick. Um, and they put me up at the executive tower, the big building, tall building
Hmm.
next to the hall, which is now the Curtis Hotel, right?
Oh, yeah.
And after the Sunday concert, I'm still in my gown and I'm walking through the pavilion, and all these people were out having, al fresco dining or having after concert drinks. And they saw me and they all started clapping. And it was such a beautiful moment. Like I thought, wow, Denver is so wonderful. And it was beautiful out. I was sitting outside. So that was my week as guest. And the orchestra
Yeah.
was warm, and I had a great time. And I was incredibly um, impressed with the Cleo Parker dancers. They were amazing. It was an amazing production. And she and I've talked about that production since, because they've just celebrated what their 45th or some 50th anniversary. I'm
Yeah.
some big number
Something big. Yeah.
anniversary.
Yeah.
Um, so then actually the orchestra asked me if I could possibly stay and be their guest concertmaster for the next season.
Hmm.
And it was so late in the season, I didn't think that Cincinnati Symphony would let me go. But as it turned out, they were very supportive and said there's something called an artistic leave, something that you can do that will enhance your artistic path. And
Yeah.
so they gave me this leave. And much like a sabbatical, I had to sign a contract that I was coming back. Yes, because as you can imagine, that's a privilege that could be easily
Yeah.
abused. People say,
Yeah.
"I'm taking an artistic leave," but they spend all year practicing for auditions and then not coming back to your orchestra, right? So that's really what happened. I stayed for the year, and that year was full of every concertmaster solo you could possibly imagine. I even did Strauss's Bourgeois Gentilhomme.
Oh.
Yeah, I played the Sinfonia Concertante with Basil.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I think that was actually the next year. But the point is, the symphony was in a search, and so they expected to have a new concertmaster, and had, you know, topped the season with all these solos. Um, in any case, there was a national audition. They didn't pick anyone, and then from that point, I was invited and asked to stay,
Hmm.
which was really, actually, frankly, a very difficult decision for me at the time. But um, the love of the Colorado mountains had already seeped in, and yeah, it was. I think the future of Denver looked so bright, and I yeah. So then, really, the rest is history, and you fast forward,
Yeah.
and now here we are.
Yeah. Fast forward to next week when we're doing the Dvořák concerto. Can you Could you tell us a little bit about this? Could you introduce us to the Dvorak Violin Concerto?
Yes. So the Dvorak Violin Concerto, as I said, is really at the top of the repertoire. Unfortunately, it's not played quite as much, and I'm still confused as to why it isn't. I think one argument could be that it just gets overshadowed by the Dvorak Cello Concerto,
Yeah.
which is so monumental. And since he wrote it, composed it while he was in America, I think there's even a closer tie to being able to program it, just like the New World Symphony and the American String Quartet. The concerto poses some real challenges too as a piece. It's partially because it's quite difficult, but it doesn't sound as flashy difficult as the Tchaikovsky or the Sibelius Concerto.
Yeah.
I think students don't play it as much, or teachers don't
Yeah.
teach it as much. And I think that might have something to do with it. But in any case, Dvorak wanted Joachim, the famous violinist that Brahms wrote his concerto for, to premiere this work. But even Joachim, I think, had some issues with it, and perhaps the fact that Joachim never premiered it is also another factor in why it's not played as much. But I will say, the first movement opens with this declamatory yum pa pa, and immediately launches into the violin solo, which turns into a mini cadenza, and then the whole thing repeats to another statement, same thing, another mini cadenza. But both of those cadenzas end with these super high notes that are basically like, if you're a gymnast, you need to make sure that you're going to get a 10 on the hurdle or the bars. So right away, straight out of the gate, you're asked to be immediately very demanding technical passage. And after that ensues a very long sort of development of the themes, and very little time for the solo violin to breathe. It's sort of like one long run-on sentence.
Yeah.
and then the movement ends quietly in the same material that you'd heard. And there's this incredible little bridge section that is so beautiful with the winds, that sort of summons into the second movement an absolutely gorgeous singing, operatic movement. And then from there, the famous rondo last movement that has the furiante rhythm that is dum dum da da dum 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 da dum, and a lot of pyrotechnics to the violin, and a incredibly beautiful middle section that is developed from the same meter. So the yup becomes a duple. Da da dum bum ba dee da dee da ya da da da. There are lots of challenging double stops for the violin, a lot of long passage works. But overall, it's just a really interesting piece compositionally as well. And in a way, I there's speculation that Joachim perhaps didn't like that it was so almost avant-garde of that time, that it didn't have a big introduction for the soloist to stand there and get ready. It didn't follow the normal sonata form until it gets into the heart of it. So you've got this big introduction. You have a strange sort of ending to the first movement and a bridge to the really heart of the piece in a way is that second movement. And then a virtuosic last movement that's just a fun, romping party. But a really wonderful play with the rhythm, the 2 against 3. And right away, too, this kind of bohemian spirit of accents and trills and kind of folksy melodies really dot the whole piece. And it's just a joy.
Yeah, yeah. Dvořák really liked to take inspiration from folk dances and folk music in the Czech Republic, and then in America when he came to America. That was a big part of his music. I've never heard the Dvořák Concerto live, so I'm so excited to hear it for live for the first time. Yeah. Thank you so much for the introduction. Anything else you wanted to share about the piece?
Well, I think, as you say, you just hit on something. I mean, this piece has been recorded widely. It's a very well recorded piece, and you can find many, many, many different versions of it. But as you say, hearing it live, right, has a completely different experience, and again, so much more visceral. And I think in the age of technology and what we've just survived with COVID and all the Zooming, this wanting the desire to experience things firsthand and live is just more important these days. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so different. I'm always trying to, convince people like you have to go see it live. Like just physically, there's more sound, there's vibrations in the air that the recording can't pick up. There's an energy in the room. It's so different to hear music live.
Well, and the vibrations, you feel those vibrations.
Yeah,
I mean, that
you physically
becomes
feel it.
Yeah, that's an internal experience that's why you come to experience live music, right? It's a physical experience, oral experience, hopefully transcendental,
emotional experience,
it's
everything.
Yeah, all that. And plus, you never know what can happen, right? It's the thrill of it.
I love those videos where the soloist breaks a string and just grabs the concertmaster's violin and keeps going.
Well, let's not talk about that.
Let's hope that doesn't.
Let's not talk about that. Knock on wood.
Yeah, everything will go smoothly and be incredibly exciting.
Well, I am so excited to play with my friends at the Fort Collins Symphony again. I've been able to play. Let's see, we did the Michael Dougherty Concerto many years ago.
Wow,
we did the Sibelius Concerto. And working with Wes is a treat. We just, again, we're old friends and very simpatico, and it's easy. And he's the one who approached me again. I want you to play the Dvořák, and I'm so happy to play because it's been a long time for me. And it's like revisiting an old friend, and such a joy to go in there and explore and see where I've changed. My violin's changed. World has changed. So I'm really, really excited, and I hope that you will have a good audience.
Yeah. Numbers are looking very good, so we're really hoping for a sold out house
Yay!
where
Good.
we've got a lot of people. So if you're listening, go grab your tickets now, because at the time of this recording there are only a couple left. So
Ooh, oh,
so yeah,
wonderful.
we're really hoping for a full house by next
Great.
week. Thank you so much for your time. Again, I'm really excited. We're really excited. Clearly, Fort Collins is excited because we've sold lots of tickets and we've only got a couple left. So thank you so much for your time, and we're
Yay.
looking forward to
I'm
doing
so
the
happy to
Dvorak
hear that.
concerto with
Yeah.
you. Yeah,
Yes. Okay. We'll see you next week.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Yumi.
Okay. Bye bye.